Hey, yo, internets, you are tuned into the Combat Jack Show, the CombatJackShow.com.
Yeah.
Yo, what's up, Premium
What's going
Pete?
on, Combat?
Man, listen, I want to talk to the listeners out there, internets. You have been fucking with us so heavy that I want to make sure that the support that you've been giving us counts. Please go to iTunes, rate, subscribe, comment on the Combat Jack Show page. We need that. iTunes has been so gracious to us with regard to the real estate that they give us and with regard to the reach that they give us. But it doesn't mean anything if you don't continue to rate, subscribe, and comment.
And tell a friend.
To tell a friend. And also, I want to give, we're not in a hobby or the habit of giving out shout outs and the whole nine, but I want to give our friends over at the Breakfast Club a shout out, man. You know, DJ Envy, Angela Yee, and Charlamagne the Guard, we were on their show last week, and it was such a great look. It felt so comfortable.
You was turned up, man.
Yeah, man, and cats are snapping that you weren't talking enough. Pete, what's up? Were you intimidated by being on the Breakfast Club?
I mean, well, first of all, you were turned the fuck up.
Yes, I was.
And I was like, yo, let you live. Like, let you know, I mean, and at the end of the day, I'm a person that's like, yo, the Combat Jack Show is me. Yes. I'm part of the fucking Combat Jack Show. We're going to win. It's a brand. And you know what? They didn't have, like, any questions really designed for me. They had all that lawyer questions for you.
Right.
And to be honest with you, I'm like, again, I'm going back to we're a whole, man, and we're a team, and you were turned up.
Internets, man, stop snapping on my man, Premium Pete. He holds us down. Premium, though, the first time that Angela was on the show.
Yeah.
Were you on the show then?
Yeah, absolutely.
You were a little kind of intimidated then.
No. That was
because she came in there smelling good.
No,
her legs was out.
She was smelling good.
Her legs was out. And it was the first time we had a female. This was like 3 years ago. The first time the time Angela Yee was on the show, I think she was one of our first females.
Matt Raz actually got nervous.
He was
doing the news, and he fucking stuttered that stuttering prick.
Yeah, but once again, man, shout outs to the Breakfast Club, man. I really appreciate that. That was a great look. I also want to shout out our friends at Hot 97. Ebro.
Cheer.
Ebro, listen, man. I know Ebro called me this week personally, and he was talking greasy.
What?
And I was like, yo, Ebro, man, just leave, like, just for one moment. Because every time we've gone to Hot 97, because we've interviewed Ebro twice.
That's correct.
Every time we've gone over there, we've had to go over there. So I was like, yo, listen, Ebro, let's meet in a neutral spot. Let's talk. And he was like, no, my G, come to King's Landing. And he was giving me all of this Game of Thrones talk. And listen, Ebro, listen, man, we talk the talk about, what goes on in radio right now. And I'm not talking about that. I'm not going about all this. You guys are going to run the business the way you want to run your business. But my only issue with you, man, is y'all really got to fall back with Chuck D. If we're talking about culture, if we're talking about what's important and what's of value, you can't be dissing Chuck D. I don't give a fuck if Chuck D was cracked out and on his Flavor Flav and showing his ass or whatever the fuck. You can't diss that man. His contributions to this game is unparalleled. You can't be asking that man what he's contributed to recently with this culture. You can't be telling that man that he's irrelevant. You can't be saying he's a troll, because when you diss Chuck D, like, Ebro, you know this, man. You've been in this game for such a long time. When you diss someone like a Chuck D, you actually diss your audience because he means so much to the culture. And when you diss, you're dissing me because that man means so much in terms of what he inspired me to do. This is one of those battles, dude, that you can't win. You could do all the other shit you do. You could troll. You could do whatever the fuck you want to do, but you cannot win this battle, man. Show some humility with this, man, because you cannot win this battle. You're not sounding like King's Landing right now. It's not a diss, but you actually sounding like King Joffrey right now, B. Like, you cannot win this battle. You know I'm not coming at you. You know this is not malicious. I'm not firing shots, but you cannot win this, B. Fall back, man. Like fall back.
Cheer.
All right. And let's go on to our guest, man. Like, this has been so hot this past week. Damon Dash was up in here.
Yes, sir.
Firing shots, calling out names. And this individual that's on the show today was one of those individuals that Damon was calling out.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel so honored. First of all, I feel so honored that Dame called us and used this platform
absolutely
to air out his grievances. Because when I spoke to Dame off air, I was like, why are you coming on the Combat Jack Show? And he said, because you guys are independent.
Mm-hmm.
And I really appreciate that. That meant a lot to me. Afterwards, I got this individual reached out to me and he said, you know what? I don't necessarily have to speak out. I don't have to come to my defense, but I really respect your platform.
Mm-hmm.
I really respect your platform, and I see what you guys are doing. And if I were to explain myself or come on the show or even have an interview, this would be the platform to do it. So I welcome to the Combat Jack Show the president of urban music at Interscope, Joey Manda, a.k.a. Joey IE.
Cheer.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me, guys.
What's up, Joey?
Feels good to be here.
Nah, it feels good that you're here, man.
Yeah.
It's hot out there, huh?
Well, we'll get to that in a second. Am I supposed to call you Jack or Reggie? Or
You know what?
What do I say?
You know, like Dallas Penn, who used to be on the show, used to say that in the hall, the Justice League, the halls of justice, you don't call anybody by their civilian. I don't go by that. Whatever makes you feel comfortable, B.
All right, so
You
got
one.
your cape on now, your combat, and if
I
I see you in Brooklyn, you're Reggie?
Call me whatever the fuck you want to. Just
Okay.
don't call me shithead, man. How you
All right.
feeling, man?
I feel good, man.
Good, man.
I feel good.
The climate is hot out there, man.
Yeah.
Are
Yeah.
you accustomed to being so much in the limelight in the way that it is right now?
No, not at all. I mean, I work behind the scenes. You know, I bring other people into the limelight. It's never comfortable to me to talk about myself or, you know, do an interview. You know, that's not natural to me. That's not what I do.
Now, I've scoured the internet to really get some background on you, and there's not much out there.
Yeah.
But what I found out there was pretty impressive, man. You came from Brooklyn, man. You grew up in Brooklyn.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Tell us about your household, man.
Well, I grew up in Brooklyn. I was raised by my mom. My mom was my mom and dad. She had me when she was 17.
Wow.
She got pregnant when she was 16. I was born when she was 17. She worked, you know, always 2 jobs, you know, at a time to support us. And, you know, she did, I think she did an incredible job.
How many siblings did you have?
I'm an only child.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just me and her.
Right. Now, what was your vision? What was your dream in terms of, like, when you grew up? What did you want to do, man?
I mean, I had a bunch of things I wanted to do. I wanted to be a DJ. I wanted to be a rapper. I wanted to be
A gangster?
yeah, at times.
Why?
At times.
Like why gangster?
I think, and not to get too deep with this, but I think when you're a boy and you grow up without a dad, gangsters are macho, and gangsters are you know, personify, you know, toughness and
Confidence
and confidence
Right.
and manliness. So I think that's why a lot of kids gravitate to it.
Were there a lot of gangsters in your neighborhood, man?
Yeah, a lot of fake gangsters, a lot of real gangsters. You know, yeah, like any neighborhood.
What neighborhood was this?
I grew up on Kings Highway in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where'd you go to school?
I went to Lafayette High School. Unfortunately, I didn't finish, but I got my GED.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
for a man that's so accomplished, man, I think it's a great. I mean, I don't want to encourage kids to drop out of school, but I think it's always a great story when someone doesn't finish education and they go on to accomplish so much.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, now, Pete, you went to Lafayette.
That's correct.
Did
I got a GED too, but I'm not that successful yet. But I'm proud of Joey because it's funny. I want to go into this right before you even go into your great movement that combat's going to bring you through. But you know how I knew Joey was, you know, I grew up in Brooklyn. I grew up in Coney Island, then I moved to by Bay 50 at Bath Avenue, and I came across him a couple times. I don't think we knew each other. We knew of the same people. How I knew him is I used to see him on throw-ups on the train of the B train at the time, like on all the wall. You used to see IE. And it used to be
B, the N, the D, the F.
It used to be this kid Jens and IE, and like they used to do some dope throw-ups.
Wait. So you were a graffiti artist?
I was a graffiti artist, yeah.
And
not an artist, a graffiti writer.
You're a graffiti writer.
Yeah. It was about tagging for me, not the colorful. I know when people think of graffiti, they think of, you know, colorful burners and pieces and stuff. I was more about getting my name out. I wanted to be famous.
Yo, before you leave, you gotta leave us a tag, man.
It's gonna be terrible,
That's
but
all
I'll
right.
do it.
That's
it's gonna be
all right.
awful.
Now, were you all city?
Yeah, every winter.
You were all city every winter.
Of course, yeah.
So you really lived that life, man.
Yeah, of course.
Videograph.
Yeah.
Did you used to get chased by the cops in the whole nine?
Yeah, chased, caught.
You got caught? How
Yeah.
many times did you get caught, man?
At least 10.
Right.
At least 10.
And did your mom have to come and bail you out?
She had to come get me once.
Right.
I was real young. I forgot. I don't know exactly how old. Maybe 15. I'm just guessing though. She had to come once. Yeah.
Was she worried, man? You know, raising a kid on her own.
Yeah, she
and
was
you being
worried.
exposed to, like, you know, negative influences or what she thought was negative influences.
Yeah, she was worried, but you know, she did the best she could, and she tried to bring positive influences around. I was in the Big Brother program.
Okay.
I don't know if you're familiar with
Yeah,
that.
I am.
For a little while, and you know, I always rebelled against that because I was like, you know, this guy's not my dad and all that, you know. But she did, you know, she tried, and she definitely was cognizant of where we were and you know what the mindset was and how I was growing up, and she did everything she could to make sure that I you know, that I wasn't a fuck up.
Right. Now, you were telling me
But I was a fuck up for a while.
You were a fuck up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, how so?
Well, I dropped out of school.
What
I
grade?
wrote 11th.
Why'd you drop out, man?
I wanted money. I didn't think school was going to take me anywhere. I wasn't that good at it. I wanted to be out at night. I didn't want to go to school in the morning. I didn't think I was getting anything out of it.
Right. So how were you making money?
I would do, you know, I did a bunch of jobs. I worked in King's Plaza.
What store, man?
It was a woman's clothing store called Learners. I was a stockbroker.
So you met a lot of chicks in there, or what?
A lot of older chicks.
Okay.
Yeah.
MILFs.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, you were telling me in the elevator on our ride up, man, that you just recently met your dad?
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy to talk about on the Combat Jack show, but
if you're gonna talk about it,
yeah, might as well. I told you, ask me anything you want to ask me. I'm cool. I think when I was you know, I obviously don't remember too much from being a baby, but I think I might have met him once or twice, but I obviously don't remember that. But I sought him out a few years ago and met him.
How was that, man?
You know, it was deep. You know, it was heavy, as you can imagine.
Right.
You know, it was. But you know, you have a lot of questions. You know.
And was he proud of you? What was his reaction to all of the things that you had accomplished?
He was well, forget about who I was.
Right.
He had a lot of stuff he was trying to get off his chest. He was very apologetic. Yeah, we actually met in Central Park. I called him and he hung up on me, so I wrote him a letter.
He knew it was you, or did he think it was a prank?
He knew it was me. He was just overwhelmed.
Right.
And then I wrote him a letter. He lives here in the city.
Wow.
And you know, I mean, it's crazy. I didn't know where in the world he was. They could have told me he was in Alaska.
Right.
And they were like, no, he lives in the city. And I was like, wow. His office building was 2 blocks from my office building in the city. It was crazy.
Now, do you guys still talk?
Occasionally on email.
Right.
Yeah.
You gonna do anything for Father's Day? Or,
Nah. This will be my first Father's Day as a father.
Congratulations, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Let's get into the music scene, man. So you got inspired to also be a DJ.
Yes.
How?
I had friends that were DJs, and I just wanted to get close to the music. Like, you know, Great Adventures of Slick Rick was and probably still is the most important album to me. I was 14 when that album came out, and that I just, you know, him and Kane and the Beastie Boys. You know, I was a little younger when that came out, but that was obviously huge in Brooklyn, and I just sought it out. It's just what it was like. You know,
it almost didn't seek you out as much as it pulled you in.
It's just what it was.
It pulled you in.
Yeah,
man.
yeah. There wasn't everyone. It wasn't like, you know, everyone listened to Slick Rick and Kane and, you know, and Poor Righteous Teachers and you know, and all that. That's what everyone listened to. Everyone watched Video Music Box. You would see, you know, Large Professor wear something on Video Music Box, and then you'd see a bunch of kids in school with it. You know, a week or two later when they could get it. And, you know, that's just what it was, you know?
So you started DJing.
Yeah.
Where were you DJing? Publicly? What were you doing?
No, well, the first thing on milk crates, you know, in my apartment, you know, in my mom's apartment, and, you know, practicing a lot. You know, before that I was into bicycles.
Okay.
But my bicycle had gotten stolen.
Right.
And, I was careless and it got stolen, and My mom wasn't going to work hard to, she
To
wasn't
replace that.
She wasn't going to, spend 6 months trying to replace that. So
Right.
she was like, yeah, you learned a good lesson.
Okay.
And then I got turntables. I didn't get Technique 1200s at first. I got some I forget what they call them now. It's been a long time, but the kind that don't work like that.
Right.
I think that they're automatic or whatever the thing is. And I started with those, and then I saved up, for a while. I think it was a whole summer, which felt like an eternity at the time. And I got some used 1200s, which were easier to get back then than
Right.
they are now. And I just used to, I would borrow vinyl. People, I would beg for vinyl. I would buy vinyl. I would do whatever to get records.
Right.
And I would just practice.
And then eventually, when did you start performing publicly?
Not for a while, because I didn't. It wasn't. I wasn't making tape. I would like make cassettes,
Right.
but not do anything with them. Like I never became like, I don't have a story where I'm like Clue or Envy and I came out
The
and my
first time I rocked the
my
crowd.
tapes were popping in my neighborhood,
Right.
and I didn't have the Q moment in Juice. That didn't happen for me.
And it was, were you DJ IE or?
No, I never had a DJ
You
name.
didn't have a DJ?
Nah.
So you never made it really as a
Nah,
DJ?
I never made it. I was pretty good though. I was slept on.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't get my shot.
And then eventually you started promoting parties. How did that
Yeah,
happen?
a friend from my neighborhood named Chris, he was a party promoter.
Okay.
And he was like, I obviously didn't have much money, and he was like, do you want to give out flyers for me? And I said, what do you mean? He said, you write your name on a flyer and you give it out, and anyone that uses it to get into the party, I'll give you $2 for it, whatever it was. So I would hustle and go around where I knew girls were and, people that went to parties, and I would give these flyers out. And then he, basically I was really good at it. And, we became close friends. So I would eventually start throwing the parties with him.
Right.
But I spent a lot of time standing on street corners giving out flyers.
Right. Now, what makes you good? What makes somebody good at handing out street flyers? Like, what makes you good?
Now, there's no talent to it.
Right.
It's just standing there and doing it.
And what makes you good at getting people to go to those parties? Like, what was your thing?
Nah, the parties were good.
Okay, the parties
were good. I just knew where to do,
Right.
And, it's a hustle. If you know people going to the party anyway, maybe you're in the parking lot before they get into the party and you give it to them there. And you're like, hey, you could save a few dollars if you go in with this. You should use this.
So eventually you guys started throwing your own parties.
Yeah.
And that led you to...
In Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And then we got a chance. Well, really, Chris got a chance. I was really, working for him.
Right.
We weren't partners or anything.
Chris Reeder, you talking about?
Chris Reeder, yeah. And then he got hired by a guy named Peter Gation.
Peter Gation.
The Peter Gation, who owned the Palladium,
Limelight.
Palladium nightclub, Limelight, Club USA,
Right.
and the Tunnel here in the city. And he was, a larger than life guy, and he had these clubs, and everybody wanted to be at these clubs. And I was when Chris started working for him, I was 19.
Wow.
So I wasn't old enough to drink yet, legally or whatever. And then I started helping Chris throw parties at the Palladium.
Wow. Now, what kind of parties were these?
They were bridge and tunnel parties, meaning people from Brooklyn, people from Queens, people from New Jersey. They weren't the coolest. I found out later. I didn't even know at the time, but they weren't the coolest parties in the world. They weren't like the downtown scene where Dante Ross was hanging out.
Right.
And
because those parties would happen on any other night except for Friday or Saturday.
And we were strictly Fridays and Saturdays.
Bridge and tunnel night.
I didn't know that clubs existed on Monday to Thursday.
Right.
Or Sunday to Thursday.
But how was that life for you, man? At 19, you're part of...
It was amazing. You want to date girls. You want to be around music. Every once in a while you would see, a rapper, or a big DJ, and that's how I first met Flex at the Palladium.
Now, who's your first celebrity you ever met, if you can remember?
I'm not really sure. I remember seeing, I think, I don't remember if it was Scoob or Scrap at Albee Square Mall.
Okay.
I don't remember who it was, but I was like, I was geeked.
I want to go back. I'm glad you mentioned that because I read somewhere that you were so inspired back then by Biz Markie that you actually made a pilgrimage to Albee Square Mall?
Yeah, I used to go all the time.
Really? So you used to hang out?
Yeah.
Where at the Shirt Kings? Or?
I mean, yeah, I wasn't buying the 4-finger rings or anything. I wasn't built like that.
Right.
But I would just walk around.
And did you build with anybody? Did you make friends?
Yeah. I would talk to people. I would make friends. You see some people when you go back. I try to talk to girls.
How fucked up is it, man? That like, for example, I have teenagers, and we still live in Brooklyn, and it's 2014. And when they hear the song Albee Square Mall,
they don't know what it means.
They don't know what the fuck it means, even though we drive by. How ill is that, man?
It's crazy. Fulton Street was the shit, man.
Fulton Street was the shit.
It's crazy.
So how'd you meet Flex?
I met him at the Palladium. I met Jessica Rosenblum.
Okay.
I met Flex, and Flex had a party on Friday nights at the Palladium called Flex's House, and I was involved with Saturday nights at the Palladium. And I used to go see him spin on Fridays because I could get in for free. I'm like, yo, I work here on Saturday. I would hustle in.
Perks of the business.
Yeah, you get in for free. So I would take the train. I would go over there on Fridays and see him spin. And I don't remember exactly how we started talking, but he acknowledged me, which was incredible.
Right.
And
he was still on the come up.
Yeah, he was on 10 to 12 on Hot 97 at that time. Right. He wasn't on at 7 yet. I mean, he was one of the most important DJs, in the world at that time already. He wasn't,
Okay. So how did you start working with him?
I said you need to come here on Saturdays when I'm one of the promoters and spin. And for the Saturday night party, and he was like okay, cool. And then he had me one day he was like, yo, you should come see me at the radio station. You should blah blah blah. Because he would ask me about, because since I was a promoter, I would go to a bunch of other clubs and see what was going on. And we just built it about that, what parties were happening, who was doing what records were working.
So he was asking you, basically, he was curious about what was going on.
Yeah.
Beyond where he was DJing.
Absolutely, yeah.
And you had that inside information. So you guys were building like that.
Absolutely.
And, I've read conflicting, pieces that said you were his manager, you were his partner.
No, I was never his manager. I mean, I don't think I was ever his partner or anything. I started off, he came and spun at my party, and he did it for well below his rate at the time because, we were building our relationship and he was, expanding his brand. And then he said, I don't remember exactly how it morphed into, me carrying his records, but
how'd you carry?
That's what it turned into. I think he was like, I don't remember if he was like, yo, I'm spinning so and so on Wednesday. On Wednesday you should come, and then, you show up somewhere and he's like, yeah, you should help me with these records. I don't remember exactly how it happened. I mean, there were obviously other people that carried his records and stuff, but I was just like,
so you were really in the trenches.
Yeah.
Because when all of this came out recently, I was really trying to figure out the nature of your relationship.
I had at that time in hip hop. I mean, I had a little bit of status from people that wanted to come to the club on Saturday when I was part of the party. People that wanted to get in free or whatever. Right. But I didn't have any status in hip hop. I was whoever. Like I used to get intimidated by Jessica Rosenblum. I thought she was. I was like, wow, she's scary.
Wasn't she so scary?
She was scary, but she's actually, she was a very important person, mentor for me.
Right.
She taught me a lot of stuff.
Now, what did she like? What was your relationship with her like?
Well, she also obviously was involved in the Palladium and the Tunnel, and she obviously had Mecca on Sunday nights at the Tunnel, and I ended up working on Sunday nights, because Peter Gatien owned all these clubs. And I guess, people like, well, Joey knows Flex and he's really into hip hop. And then Jessica really gave me a shot, though.
Wow.
Because Sundays were her party and she allowed me to work there. And that was incredible.
It's crazy. We recently had Jessica on the show.
Yeah, I heard it.
And I'm so amazed at how all of these roads lead to Jessica.
Nah.
And it's also funny because all of these years that I've known Jessica, she always was intimidating. But it wasn't until she came on this show that I was like, she's not that scary. I mean, she is scary, but she's not that scary.
She's tough and she's confident, but she should be. She was involved in important events in hip hop. No one can deny that.
No one at all. So, how did you make this transition from like the club scene to like the record industry?
So I was running around with Flex,
Carrying
the records, and then
building your muscles, because them shits was heavy.
Maybe he'd say, you could pick up my envelope at the end of the night. Maybe, whatever. You can go tell the promoter, whatever. And then he had already, Jessica and him had done, I think 3 albums together at Loud with Steve Rifkin.
Right.
And then he was
the
getting
Funk Master Flex.
60 Minutes of Funk.
Yeah, 60 Minutes of Funk.
Volumes 1, 2, and 3.
Right.
And then he was getting ready to do his first album on Def Jam with Big Cap called The Tunnel.
Right.
And he said, I don't think he ever said anything, actually. I think it was just like, I was there every day, and he was like, and I had not, Palladium, I think, had closed, or I didn't work there anymore. I stopped working there in 96. And I was just around him constantly, and I don't think he ever said, you can A&R this album, but it was like, who's going to stay here for 14 hours till the end of the session and carry these 2-inch reels home? And that just became me.
Right. So this was like your break. Like you went.
Absolutely. This allowed me to get into the Def Jam building. I knew a lot of people that worked there from when they would come to the clubs.
Right.
I mean, I would see Russell and Leor and Kevin Lyles. I never knew them. They never spoke to me.
Right.
But the Tunnel album allowed me to maybe be in a meeting with them and be in the Def Jam building.
Now, I read somewhere that you said that when you started hanging out at the Def Jam offices, that's when this light bulb clicked in your head, and you were like, you know what? This is really what I want to do.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah.
When that moment, man. Or what was it about that environment that made you want to do this?
I mean, that's where you would just see, Method Man walk through the hallway and be like, that's Method Man.
Right.
And you would see, Jay, and you would see
Jam Master Jay or Jay-Z.
Both.
Okay.
You would see DMX, you would see, and you would feel not see them like, oh my God, I'm seeing a celebrity, more see like, this is where it happens.
Right.
They're up here for a reason. This is the record label that markets, promotes them. This is the spot. Like this is Albee Square Mall now, like on a different level.
Right. So you're there, you're seeing these artists. Are you getting an inside look in terms of the deals that are going on, or you're just still kind of like on the outside?
I was definitely ear hustling all throughout that building.
Right.
Whoever would talk to me, and it wasn't everyone, but whoever would talk to me, I would talk to, and I would sit in their office. And one of the people that let me sit in his office the most was Todd Moskowitz,
right,
who was the head of business affairs GM at the time.
Yes.
And and Kevin would talk to me sometimes in the hallway.
Kevin Lyles.
Yeah.
Right.
But not too much. But
right,
he would, and Leor, I don't remember ever seeing him too much. Maybe a few times. But Todd would let me sit in his office because, when you do and this well, when you do an album like a Flex album, you have to do a lot of paperwork with all the artists.
A lot of clearances.
There must have been 100 artists on that album.
Right.
So, everyone, business affairs, would always have questions. And I was the person that was in the studio every night. So then I would go to the label during the day to answer the questions because, of course, we wanted, like every album, we were on a time crunch to get the paperwork done to get the album out.
See, that makes a lot of sense, man, because I remember those. I used to hate going through all that paperwork for one fucking album. And the reason why I
must have called you 72 times about my Nature Side artist agreement.
I remember that.
But you took care of me.
Did I didn't blow you off, did I?
Yeah, like 72 times.
I blew you off 72.
I think the 73rd time you actually.
It's probably because Nature probably hadn't paid me yet at the time.
Yeah.
But okay. So, but what I was gonna say was, man, it's so painful to go through that clearance process because when you're talking directly to your artist is not giving you all of these answers. But like here you are, the key, because you actually knew everybody. You stayed in the studio.
Well, it was all, the whole album was all Flex and Cap's relationships.
Right.
So I would also, Def Jam would tell me, yo, could you tell Flex to put in a call to Raekwon and tell his attorney that, we need to get this done. So, I was the go-between, and I was bringing the whole album. Yeah, I was the middleman, exactly. And so I'd be in the studio every night. And back then there was, Hit Factory and
right,
Sony. And then I would be in the Def Jam office every day.
So you finish the album. You turn the album in. Project is complete. What are you doing now? Like, what do you do after the album's done?
Oh, I went on the road with him when he went across the country to promote it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how does
there was one thing too that now that now that I'm thinking about it, when I used to be in that building, there was one moment that I remember when I forgot whose office I was sitting in, but Jay-Z walked in the office and he was like, damn, I forgot exactly what he said, but it was something like, damn, Flex got to give you a raise, man.
Because he saw how hard you were working.
Because he would just see how much I was there,
right.
and how much, and then he would see me at the club or, know I was at the
studio. So you working 24/7?
Yeah, no sleep.
With basically no time.
I know no sleep's a cliche, but it was really no sleep.
No, but back then we didn't sleep.
No.
Back then we didn't sleep, and you had all of you had all of these responsibilities, but no title.
Nah, no title. So again, he never told me at the beginning of the project, you're going to A&R this.
Right.
At the end of the project, he made me associate executive producer, and I was like, wow.
So you saw your name on the album.
Yeah.
So tell us that feeling, man.
It's incredible. I mean,
Did you show everybody that you knew? That's fucking music.
I didn't show anyone because
right.
that's not that I don't do that.
right.
I never showed anyone. But I saw it and it was on vinyl, and I still have it. The vinyl. My mom has the vinyl.
Yeah, so she was proud of you.
Yeah, she was like, "Wow."
So how do you take this and move it into the next step? What was the next step for you, man?
The next step. So, the next album that we did, which was pretty close to the Tunnel album.
And were you getting paid good, man?
I was getting paid fair. I would have done it for free.
Right.
Yeah, It wasn't about that. I mean, obviously you should get compensated for your work, but I didn't. That was an afterthought.
Right. Because you're doing it for the love.
Yeah. Who cares? It's not.
Okay. So what's the next album?
The next album was on Loud. With Steve Rifkin.
Was this the Tunnel also, or
no? It was 60 Minutes of Funk.
Volume
4. I don't remember the exact title. That's terrible. But
right. No,
but that was the next album.
So now you're hanging out.
Now I'm in the Loud building.
Right. With Rifkin and the whole
with Steve Rifkin and everyone that worked there, and that they had Mobb Deep and they had the Wu-Tang Clan and they had the Alcoholics and they had all these people. So that was a different building I was getting exposed to. And when you're in these buildings every day, you build your relationships.
Right. So now
you meet the receptionist.
Right. So now you're hustling out of the Loud offices.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was there a difference or?
No, Loud was an important company too.
Right.
I mean, they had differences, but they were both amazing. And then Steve Rifkin gave me an opportunity to help out on some other stuff.
What were those opportunities?
He was just like, help me get beats, come to meetings, help me, talk to radio about the songs. He just, he saw something in me and he gave me an opportunity. I met him through Flex, and Steve was awesome to me.
So here you are, you're basically running through walls to get your assignments done. But are you noticing now a change?
Running through walls, I was waiting. I used to wait at the studio. I would have to wait. Like, I remember one night waiting they had the old Hit Factory and the new Hit Factory.
Right.
And I remember waiting at the old Hit Factory for, I think 7 or 9 hours or something for Foxy Brown. Because we were mixing or mastering the album the next day, whatever it was. We really wanted her. We were chasing her for months. And, I wasn't going to leave that studio.
Right.
Like, the engineer was looking at me, the studio manager came in, like, yo, is she coming? Sometimes she doesn't show up.
Right.
They would give me that hint, like, don't play yourself and sit here all day. And, I would have sat there for 100 hours.
Right. So at what point do you get an official title, man? Like, at what point? Like, you're doing all these records.
What do you mean official title?
Like, at what point do you get hired by one of these labels as an executive?
In 2004, when Leor Cohen left Island Def Jam,
you were still running around with Flex?
Still running around with Flex.
Right.
I was also trying to manage some producers. I had an artist.
Which producers? Which artists?
I had an artist named Bristol.
Okay, I remember that.
That was affiliated with Junior Mafia from
right.
Brooklyn. I got him signed to Universal, to
okay.
Motown at the time. So 2004, Leor Cohen leaves Island Def Jam. He goes to Warner Music Group with Edgar Brofman. Right. They take over Warner Music Group. Leor Cohen hires Todd Moskowitz, who I knew from Def Jam. to revive. David Geffen had a company called Asylum, which Warner Music Group owned the name and the company, and Lior hired Todd to restart the company as a place for entrepreneurs to bring their companies to. He wanted to have the next Cash Money, and he said we need a place for entrepreneurs and labels. Like I want to have the next Rough Riders, the next Rockefeller, the next Murder Inc., the next Rap-A-Lot, the next, all those companies. And Todd hired me to do to basically be his right hand and A&R person.
Okay, so Asylum was basically an incubator.
Exactly. It was actually called Incubator before they decided to use that name. Yeah.
Okay, and I would say that in 2004 the industry had changed.
Yeah.
From when you first entered into it, because back in the 90s you would sign artists. I mean, of course you had production companies and you had labels, but we were still in the process of signing artists. In 2004 it changed where it was like we don't really have that time to raise the artists. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean, it was also a time where rap music was becoming was more regional than it had been.
Right.
It used to always start in New York or Atlanta. Yes. All the record companies were in New York and Atlanta, so it seemed like mostly New York and L.A. I'm sorry, New York and L.A.
Right.
And obviously Atlanta has a long history. But you'd see records coming out of Houston or records coming out of New Orleans and records coming out of different places in the country. So when we started Asylum, that was a big part of it too. Like, calling, there was still retail at the time, so indie retail, you'd call local record stores. What are people coming in there buying? Oh, they're coming in and buying Little Boosie.
Right.
People love Swishahouse. They love Paul Wall.
Mike Jones,
exactly.
Mike Jones.
So when you were at Asylum, basically you kind of ushered in like the whole Mike Jones, Paul Wall, Chopped and Screwed.
We did the Swishahouse deal,
right?
Which was Mike Jones and Paul Wall. They both had tremendous success. It was great. We did a deal with Rap-A-Lot, and we put out Bun B's album. We put out some Scarface records, Ghetto Boys album.
Now, as a New York cat and somebody who has trained New York ears, do you have to retrain your ears to get accustomed to this other type of music that we didn't grow up on?
When I first heard Still Tippin', I got it. I was like,
Still Tippin' was undeniable.
I was like, that's fucking dope. Did I know the most about Chop and Screwed?
Right.
No, but you educate yourself. Because I was going down to Houston, 3 times a month. So I would learn about, what was going. I learned about Michael Watts and what Chopped and Screwed was, and what the differences are, and how different DJs do it.
What was the thing that stood out to you most in terms of like the difference between East Coast music and Southern music?
I think it's the same in a lot of ways. It's different in some ways. I mean, the slang is obviously different. Probably the beats that people choose, but I mean, it's all hip hop.
So the music industry changes, the landscape changes, the sound changes. And you're now working with artists over at Asylum like Common, like Gucci Mane, like Jill Scott, like Waka Flocka.
Well, they weren't Common and Jill Scott. We signed to Warner Brothers.
Okay.
I signed them to Warner Brothers.
Properly.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. Because so we had Asylum for a few years, and then we became the urban division of Warner Brothers.
Okay.
And that's when we signed Jill Scott, which was amazing. We had a #1 album with her, and I love her. And we did the Common album that No ID produced,
right.
Dreamer Believer, which was also incredible.
So you guys came in and you gave Warner that boost.
Yeah.
You brought Warner back to life with regard to urban music.
Yeah, they've been, they had some stuff before we got there. They had a BME deal, which was Little John, like Trillville, Little Scrappy, right. But not much. They weren't booming. We went there, and did some great stuff.
And then you bought the MMG deal over
there.
Yeah,
we did the partnership with Rick Ross.
Tell us about putting that together, man.
I just saw the stars aligning with him. Like,
right.
His verses they were getting better and better, and the way he understands the game, the way he would roll out content and present it, and the artists he was collaborating with, it just seems like he was and is the most culturally relevant. And then I actually heard his verse on Dark Twisted Fantasy,
right,
on Devil in a New Dress, and I was like, as soon as I heard that verse, I was like, wow, like, I was always a fan of his, and he's obviously had tons of great verses before and after that, but that verse just, I was like, wow, like I want to be in business with him.
Yeah. So you would say that on top of being a great artist, and
I hit him on Twitter.
Yeah. Okay. What do you mean you hit him on Twitter?
That's how I knew him. Like, I met him because we were all, kind of moving around. Like, I was moving around with Mike Jones and Paul Wall before that, and Little Boosie. So, you see people at clubs and radio shows. So, I knew Jeezy, Hello and Goodbye. I knew Ross, Hello and Goodbye. I knew Slim Thug, But I didn't have a phone number on Ross.
Right.
So when I saw him talking, he started to talk about his label, and I just felt it. And like I said, I heard that music, and I hit him on Twitter.
I read somewhere that you said not only is he a great artist, but he's a brilliant A&R.
Yeah, the best.
The best.
Yeah, his ear is crazy.
Crazy. You also had a deal with Cameron.
Absolutely, at Asylum.
Tell us about that deal.
Yeah, we did when Cameron left Rockefeller, Def Jam. We signed him to Asylum. We didn't sign him. I'm sorry, signed his label.
Right.
And we put out Killer Season, and then Crime Pays, and hit the movie. We put out the movie.
What happened to that deal, man?
It was great. Yeah, the deal was great.
Okay, so how do you get pulled over to Def Jam? You're doing all this great stuff at Asylum. You basically build Asylum. Now you're making good money, and you have a track record.
I loved Warner Brothers. I loved the people I was working for. I had found most of, pretty much everyone on my staff at the time, and it's a family. You have deep relationships with people because you're spending 12 hours a day in the trenches with them, and you're moving around the world together, and they become brothers, sisters, cousins. Sometimes you love them, sometimes you hate them, but they're family. And when I got the call about Def Jam, that was a really hard decision for me. But when they offer you the presidency of Def Jam,
did that really come out of left field?
Yeah, I was humbled.
Right.
Like, I was humbled.
Now I remember at the time, man, that Irv Gotti was really angling for that position. Any thoughts on why he wasn't tapped for that?
I don't know. I mean, I know he had a long history. Maybe they were scared of Irv. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know. Irv is incredible.
Yeah.
Irv also, we spent a lot of time together. Him and Flex were really good friends. Irv also, he saw something in me. He told me, I remember him telling me in the studio, like, he's like, you got talent. And I'm sure he wouldn't even remember that, but I was like, wow, Irv Gotti.
Coming from Irv.
Yeah, he just told me, this guy signed DMX and Jay-Z, and Ja Rule.
And Ja Rule.
He just told me I have talent.
That's crazy.
I think that put a lot of battery on my back for a while.
Did you have a conversation with him after you got tapped to run Def Jam?
I didn't. No.
Right.
No.
I'll tell you, when they did announce you as the president of Def Jam, I remember seeing, like, it was wild of how many people had opinions.
What were those opinions?
I mean, just feel like, from what I got was I felt like, why Joey? There was so many other people that could have been picked. I don't know if you've seen all the, I don't know if you read comments, or I'm sure, I don't know. Some people
I didn't
do.
pay attention to it.
But did you?
I didn't care. I was like, yo, I get to work with Kanye West and Rihanna and Rick Ross, work on one of his albums, and work with Jeezy, and 2 Chainz was there, and I knew what that was going to be, and Nas. I didn't care what anybody said.
Yeah, but what makes me like,
you couldn't tell me nothing that day.
Couldn't tell you nothing.
Who reached out to you or gave you support that maybe you didn't think of at that time?
A bunch of people did. Ross obviously did. 2 Chainz did. Russell did. I spent an incredible day with Russell.
Which is great.
I spent an incredible day with Rick Rubin in Malibu.
With Rick Rubin, so you got these guys' blessings.
Yeah. I don't know if I don't want to speak for them and say I got their blessings. Right. I went and just sought their guidance.
Right. That's crazy. Listen, let's go to a station break. You're tuned into the Combat Jack Show, thecombatjackshow.com. We got
Cheer.
Joey Manda in the building, a.k.a. Joey IE.
Joey IE.
Yo, let's get this popping.
Cheer.
Yeah.
Hey, yo, for real, some people do it real, some people do it fake. I'm going to tell you, it's the legendary DJ Marley Marl. Right now, listen to the Combat Jack Show, my motherfuckers. It's no holds barred in this bitch.
Internets, you're tuned into the Combat Jack Show, thecombatjackshow.com. We got Joey IE in the building. Joey, so we're talking about when you were Mr. Def Jam.
Okay.
You're at Def Jam, and you're making things happen, man. You bring Nas back to life with Life is Good.
I don't know if I brought Nas back to life.
But it happened on your watch.
No Idea and Nas. Yeah, it happened on my watch. No Idea and Nas made an incredible album.
Did you have any involvement with that at all?
Not with the music, but bringing it to market and rolling it out. Yeah.
When you heard that album, man, what were you thinking?
I just heard Daughters, and I was like, wow, this is incredible.
This is crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
he's the coolest dude in the world.
Nas?
Yeah, I mean, I knew him. I knew him a little bit before I went to Def Jam. Maybe he probably didn't know me. But he's like, there's no cooler dude walking the earth.
You also worked on 2 Chainz.
Yes.
How was that, man? Because 2 Chainz is one of my favorite.
I mean, it was incredible. He was having his moment, he was having, it was incredible. It was incredible.
What kind of cat is he, man?
He's funny. He's funny, and he's a really hard worker, man.
Right.
That guy's not going to stop working.
Right. Another record that happened during your time there was Channel Orange. Was Frank Ocean.
Frank's album, yep.
How was that, man? Because that was very controversial.
I don't want to keep saying things are amazing or incredible, but that one was inspirational. Frank's courage and not me, not just me, us being there as a company, Def Jam,
right?
To stand next to him, when he had the courage to talk about, what a lot of people would be scared to talk about.
Did you know he was gonna come out?
No, I didn't know. No, I didn't.
He just did it on his own.
He did it. Yeah, that was his choice.
And when you heard, what was the response? Because usually I would imagine in a corporate setting, in a record company setting, it's like, oh my God, we got to do Damage Control. Was it any of that?
Damage Control? No, it was like, yeah, let's stand next to him. This is great.
Right.
Let's, Def Jam's the company that made the, Public Enemy and License to Ill, and they make that company makes history. So it was just another chapter, at another point where Def Jam made history.
Tell us about the Trinidad James deal, man. Like. Who were you? He was signed when you were there as well.
Yeah, he was signed. Yeah, I was involved in that. We did, the deal we did was for Think It's a Game Entertainment, okay. And that's an entrepreneur in Atlanta by the name of Fly, who has Trinidad James, Rich Homie Quan, and another artist named Forte Bowie.
Okay.
So we did a label deal, a partnership with Fly. And Trinidad James was the first artist under that deal.
So it was kind of like an umbrella deal. It wasn't.
It was a partnership.
Him.
Yeah.
Right. How do you feel?
It was directly him too.
Right.
We wanted Trinidad.
What was it about Trinidad? Because Trinidad is one of these artists that are controversial. I mean, All Gold Everything is a controversial record. It's a banger.
All Gold Everything is a great record.
Right.
I think that when the deal happened, there was so much speculation because he came out of nowhere. It was overnight. There was so much speculation on how much money, Def Jam had given him.
Right.
And the stories that went around, and it became urban legend. It's not reality.
Right.
That wasn't the way it really went down.
Right. Now let's get back. Let's fast forward, man. Let's get back to what everybody wants to hear, man. What's going on, man? What's going on with Damon and you, man?
There's nothing going on my side of it. I think Dame, he put my picture up on Instagram a few times and said some unkind things, which I was really surprised about. But I guess he came up here for a few hours last week and talked about it, right? So
what was the nature of your relationship with Dame?
I know Dame. We were never friends. Not to say we ever had a problem, but
right.
We never hung out or anything like that. But I knew him. I knew him a little bit. The first time I actually met Dame, I booked. It was when Ain't No was out. I booked Jay for a show.
Okay, so you was
and
still
I had to
promoting.
go. I had to go. I think the office was down on John Street.
Right, around here.
Yeah, around here. And I had to go give Dame the deposit and sign the contract with him. And that's the first time I met him. I'm sure he would not remember that anyway.
But you remember.
Of course I remember that. Yeah, I still have the contract somewhere.
Right.
I think it's in my mom's house.
So what is fueling him? What do you think is fueling Damon to say some of these things about you?
I can't, I don't know what goes on in, anyone else's brains.
Right.
I don't know what's fueling him. I don't agree with the things he says, but it's for him to say.
Right. This currency situation, in from your perspective, what happened with the whole currency deal?
I can only speak to my part of
Yes.
my relationship with currency. I can't speak to Dame's relationship with currency.
Of course.
And they obviously do have a relationship, and to my knowledge, it's a good relationship.
Right.
I've never heard currency say a bad word about Dame, or Dame obviously doesn't have a bad word to say about currency. I signed currency to Warner Brothers. One of our A&R guys brought it in, and I signed him, and I was really excited to get in business with him. And he was not under contract with anyone. He had done 2 mixtapes with Dame's label, through Def Jam, and his attorney and he, I met with currency. It wasn't like I was just talking to a manager or an attorney. I spent time with him. You spend time with an artist before you sign them, and he, really wanted to do the deal. I really wanted to do a deal with him, and we did the deal. And
there was no indication that he had any obligations with Dame, or that there was any type of tortious interference with Dame's relationship?
Absolutely not. I heard about it.
Right.
Maybe years later. I'm not great with timelines, but I heard about it later. I've never been involved in any kind of litigation about it. I think I heard about it because I think Dame served Warner Brothers.
Right.
I've never been involved in any litigation. I've actually never been involved with any litigation in my life. I probably shouldn't say that. I should probably knock on wood.
Knock on wood, man.
But I've never been involved.
So he didn't bring you personally into his lawsuits.
No.
Right.
I have no lawsuits.
So basically, contrary to what Dame is saying, you never got involved in terms of like breaking up any type of business relationship with Currency and Damon.
No.
So what do you think this is coming from, man? Once
again, I can't speak to that.
Right.
I don't know, I don't know what their conversations were. I don't know what that situation, if they had an understanding or an agreement, that I wasn't part of that.
Right.
I know that I met an artist that, he also was signed to Young Money before he did the projects with Dame. I liked him. He's a great artist. Again, I met with him and his manager and his attorney a few times, and we decided to do a deal together.
Right. Now, Dame was saying that, based on their relationship, they had a partnership. And he feels that the deal that Currency entered with, with you guys was a deal that really, was it a 360 deal? And I don't want to get into his pockets, but
I honestly don't remember.
Right.
There probably was 360, and 360 is a very broad term.
Right.
That can mean a whole bunch of different things.
It can mean merchandise.
It can mean
money.
publishing,
It can mean
merchandising,
right.
touring. But that's a label supposed to put in. Is supposed to help finance those other activities and help you build your touring business or
right.
your publishing. To participate. I don't actually remember our deal with Currency, and I'm not saying that because I don't want to say what it is, but I don't want to say the wrong thing.
Right.
It probably did have some of those elements. I'm just saying that. I don't know if it did or it didn't, but I'm guessing that it probably did because we were trying to do deals like that with everyone at that time.
Damon also said something about his relationship with Max B and Jim Jones. And what is your recollection of what occurred with Max B?
When we had Asylum, we did a label deal with Jim Jones for Bird Gang Records.
Right.
Jim was also an executive at the Warner Music Group.
Right.
Kevin Lyles, who was at Warner Music, in the center of the company, believed in Jim. We believed in Jim. We gave him a label. He was also an executive at the company, and did A&R work, for the music group. He had Max B was signed to him. They fell out for whatever reason, not my business. And Dame he wasn't managing Jim, but he was around Jim at that time.
Right.
And Max and Jim, obviously were involved in this beef, which, was not good,
and it had some other elements.
Was not good for business.
Right.
Was not good for
safety.
It was not good for anything.
Right.
And another person I knew was contacting me a lot on behalf of Max.
Right.
And saying, "Yo, I wanna fix this. I want to either get Max to move on out of the deal, or I want to fix the thing with him and Jim, blah, blah, blah. So, I want to talk to Dame." And I mentioned it to Dame a few times. And, these are guys that know each other. And I don't want to say, any names or get into it like that, because it was years ago. And it's, it's not really necessary or important for the story. I gave this person Dame's number.
Right.
And I gave him his number because I wanted the situation to get fixed.
Right.
And, Dame's a businessman. I knew this other guy. I knew his intentions were good. I believe they are. And I wanted them to speak. And Dame wasn't happy about it.
Right.
And he called me and he said, "Did you give this guy my number?" And I said, "Yes." And he said, I don't remember what he said, but he wasn't happy about that. And I apologized. I said, "I'm sorry. You're right. Maybe I shouldn't have gave him your number. I apologize for that. But this is getting crazy. There's people in the office nervous about the situation. You're seeing things online, and you don't want the situation to escalate." So that was me. That was me trying to do something positive in the situation.
Right. And and you can't control situations like that. You can't control street guys. You can't control situations.
I didn't know. I didn't know Max that well. I knew Max through Jimmy.
Right.
Jimmy was my partner.
But also too, you've been around a lot. If you weren't from the street, you've been around a lot of street things. The only thing that I could see is that, even the era I believe we grew up in, sometimes like a phone call to somebody in that case means a lot. Meaning I'm come from the era where I don't give somebody's phone number unless I ask that person first.
Yeah.
And I'm not accusing you of anything.
No. By the way, that's why I apologized to him.
Yeah.
But we weren't in the street.
Right.
I wasn't in the street.
Right.
And Dame wasn't in the street, and I didn't want it to have a street outcome.
Right.
So what you're saying is right. And,
I understand what you're saying, too. I got to clear my head from thinking of Honey Street, too.
And hindsight is 20/20.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Damon labeling you a culture vulture?
I don't care.
Right.
Hey, why am I a culture vulture? What separates me from every other kid that grew up loving the music and the sneakers and the and the jeans and the shirt
polo
and the clubs? What changed? Why am I different?
Right. I mean, based on your history and your legacy, you were very clear in terms of how you were doing this thing for free, and how you committed to this thing for free, and you were doing it out of passion. So you were influenced by the culture.
Not influenced. I was in a trance.
Right.
The hip hop was everything to me. I didn't care about anything else.
What made you decide to reach out and want to speak out about this? Because you're not usually on a public forum. Because
I don't want to react to anything that Dame or anyone has to say about me. Because again, I'm a businessman and I'm not an artist or a public figure or anything like that. But I figured, hey, I should tell a little bit. When you and I spoke, and you were like, you don't have to say anything, but tell people who you are and what your story is. And I said, I'll tell my story one time. Have you spoken to Dame since? No. What would you tell him? What would the conversation be? I can't call it. Dame has jokes and he's really funny. So I don't know how the conversation would go. Right. I don't know if he would, I don't know what he would say. But what would you say? I would say, "What up, Dame?" And just keep going about my business. Questions about why he's going off, though? No, probably not. You don't want to know? See, I'm the type of person, if somebody says some shit honestly, about me, I don't. No, I don't really care. And it's not. I'm not saying I don't care because I don't respect what he has to say. Right. I just don't care. I'm. That's not what motivates me. Right. Dame also said that he felt that Flex came to your defense because he was tapped to come to your defense. What do you feel about that? What is that? I didn't speak to Flex before Flex said what he said. Right. I spoke to him after that, and I said, "Thank you, but you don't need to do that.
Right.
It's all good. Again, I'm not sweating it. And he said what he said to me. And then, we kind of laughed and kept it moving. It's not, I don't think it was that deep to him, and it's definitely not that deep to me. He's a great friend, and he's been a great mentor in my life. And, it definitely made me feel like, wow, even though, because we don't speak every day.
Right.
Sometimes we go a few months without talking.
Right.
But then sometimes we'll speak every day. It's like one of your close friends, family members. You'd be like, we talk either, we could talk 17 times a day or not for 3 months, and it's the same conversation.
Sure.
That's the relationship we have. And, I was like, wow, it's
Flex is dropping bombs for me.
it's amazing. It's amazing that the guy has my back like that.
Right.
It makes you feel, it made me feel good.
Right. How do you feel, man? And I think we talked about this off air, but we're in a really I feel we're in a really critical time when it comes to urban music, when it comes to black music. I think right now when it comes to music, what seems to get promoted by the labels, are not the most positive records that are out there. You're at Interscope right now.
Yes.
There's a war going on in Chicago. Like black bodies are dropping weekly by the tens, by the what I'm saying, by the hundreds.
Yes.
And you have a Chief Keef. And so a war is going on, and people can arguably say that you're promoting war music. Like, what do you where's what do you think about accountability?
Well, listen, I mean, what's going on in Chicago and whatever, I'm sure it's happening in other cities too, maybe not on the level of Chicago, but the violence, and violence, happening to youth is awful.
Right.
And, freedom of speech, is important, and you want young artists to say what they want to say and what they experience. But you want to, I think it's about a balance. You want to promote positive music,
yes,
also,
right?
And you never want to consciously, you never want to make money off artists talking about like you saying war music or whatever. But you also don't want to, you don't want to try to silence them either,
right?
So I met with an artist yesterday from Chicago, and she told me that she's doing a Stop the Violence party. And I was like, wow, and it was our artist. She's not signed to the label, but we talked about it. And I was like, that's amazing. I want to help with that.
Right. But when it comes to, finding music, when it comes to, grooming artists, do you feel there's a sense of responsibility? Like, I understand that you don't want to censor music, and censorship is a touchy subject. But when you see that the music that's being put out has such a direct effect to the people that listen to it. Like, personally, you came up in this game. You've seen the pros and the cons, and you've seen balance. Like, what do you feel your sense of responsibility is?
My sense of responsibility is to, put out, make sure that records with the positive message,
right?
Like the Common album, the last Common album that I worked on, that those see the light of day and get the proper promotion. Because you're right, people will only, if the records, if the records that focus on violence or what's going on in the street, if those are the easiest to hit, those are probably going to get the most attention. You have to make sure you give the other records the attention too.
I mean, because I think what's happening right now is, it's low hanging fruit. It's easy to find these records that you put in the streets and it's going to move.
Yeah, we just, at Interscope, we just did a partnership with J. Cole for Dreamville Records.
Okay.
And, I think Cole is an example of, a young artist who, I don't want to say he's, he's positive. I don't want to say, I don't want to say he's only, he only talks about positive stuff.
But there is a balance.
But there's balance
Cole's
with
presence
him.
in the game.
Yeah, and we just did a partnership with him for his label, and I think that's the balance.
Right. One of the ideas that I have is because you guys are so powerful, you guys really are powerful. You might not think you yourself individually, as a powerful person, but in the seat that you sit in, it's a powerful role. I mean, do you ever think of like putting out like research groups or like just really actively saying, you know what, instead of acts coming to us, let's start looking for what's out there that people fuck with, that could really change the tide of what's going on? I
mean, absolutely. I don't hire research groups to do it, But you look everywhere. I mean, now when you're online, that stuff's all there.
Right.
You look at a bunch of SoundClouds every day. You look at a bunch of people's Instagrams, and that leads you to somebody else's Instagram, and you see everything going on. I think right now, all music is getting a fair shot.
Right.
Because it's not. It used to be where the records had to come, the songs had to come through a record label to go to radio, and they would have to go through this whole machine. You're familiar with that.
Yes.
That doesn't exist anymore.
It was a higher filtering process.
Yeah, there's no one that stands in the way of an artist and their fans. So whatever that artist message is, that's going to get to the fan.
Right.
Record labels and radio and gatekeepers and big bloggers, and they can get involved and raise the put the spotlight on it and raise the attention. But the artists are there, and they can start that message.
I had an off-air conversation with somebody that really studies radio, and they work with radio, and they were commenting on what's going on with Hot 97 and with Chuck D, and they were saying that there's basically three parties that are responsible for what's going on right now. It's definitely the corporations, it's definitely the record labels, it's definitely the radio stations, it's definitely the audience, and it's definitely the artists. What do you say to artists out there that want to make a difference? Like, what do you say to them? Like, so that they can be so that you can start
speak to your reality, and
Right.
if you have a positive message, don't be scared of that. I've never in my life told a hip hop artist what to go into a booth and say on a song. You know what I mean? So, and I am the record label,
Right.
and I've never done that. So if you have a message, if you have something to say, and it happens, it's not like I'm saying because it never happens. It happens, but new artists should not be scared of that.
Right.
I think new artists want to be successful. So if they hear a certain record or they see something working, they want to go that path because maybe it seems like the path of least resistance. But the biggest payoff is the Kanye West or the J. Cole, where where you do something important and everyone comes to you.
How do you spike that though? How do you personally spike a movement in the needle? Like, how do you spike a change in the direction? How do you encourage more artists to be brave? And you just said it, but beyond that, how do you really impact what's going on?
Again, you make sure that artists that have a positive message or an important message. I don't want to just say positive message because sometimes that comes off as corny.
Yeah,
but artists that aren't just talking about violence or drugs or whatever. That artists that are talking about other stuff, that they get that attention.
Right.
That they that we put our resources into them just as much.
What do you do, man, when there is community outrage, and I understand you guys have been under fire, particularly because of what's going on in Chicago. What do you guys do when there's outrage and you hear like people are upset? Like, times are kind of weird now because people are talking. People are very vocal about what's going on.
By the way, that's a great thing.
Right.
That's an important thing.
But how do you guys respond? Do you listen to what they're saying?
Yeah, we have conversations like this.
Right.
I'll have a conversation about this anytime.
Right. Has there ever been a point where you guys sat down and said, you know what? This artist is we don't want to censor anybody, but this artist is really not a good look for us morally, just in terms of what's going on, in terms of like image-wise, it's not a good look. Do you guys have those conversations?
Yeah. Sometimes you have those conversations, but again, that's a really thin line between, because you don't want to censor somebody. You want them to speak to their reality and what's going on. Maybe you try to encourage them to talk about two sides of their reality.
Right. Do you guys have these conversations with an artist?
Yes, I
like
have.
Chief Keef. Have you said Chief?
I have. Again, I know I just said a few minutes ago,
Right.
I've never told anyone to go in a booth and talk about something.
Right.
But you try to do it subtly. I've met Chief Keef. He was signed before I got to Interscope.
Right.
I haven't worked with him directly, but he is on the label. But yeah, that I've had those conversations with people.
What other artists are you listening to right now that you feel bring a different sense of balance? Besides J. Cole or somebody that, and I mean, I know it's kind of hard to name artists.
I think,
that you want to sign.
I've heard the record that Common's working on.
Right.
I think he always does that. I think Kendrick Lamar does that.
Yeah.
I think Kendrick Lamar, the way he told his story about where he came from without saying, I do this and that. I think that was incredible, and I think I think that was important moment.
This is another sensitive question, man. But when you look at the complexion of executives right now in the game, and it's not a black or white thing, but it seems that traditionally, and what's happening right now, is that you see a lot of white executives being groomed to become the successors of the industry, and you don't really see that many black faces being groomed to be successors of the industry. Would you agree or not?
I wouldn't say I agree or not. I think it's important, and I've always been cognizant of grooming executives, white and black.
Right.
But it's really important that black executives succeed in urban music. It's really important because urban music is black culture.
Yes.
That's where it came
I'm
from.
glad you said that.
I'm always cognizant of
Right.
that. That's what it is.
But is that happening?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I've groomed a bunch of executives that came from interns, assistants to vice presidents, senior vice presidents, and they're working throughout the industry.
When all is said and done, man, what do you want to be said about your legacy? Beyond the hits, beyond the successes, what do you want to be said about you and your legacy and what you brought to the game?
I think every record executive, every label executive wants to be considered a real record man.
Right.
Somebody that really stood up for artists, really took a stand, really brought incredible music to the market. And also, it's also about the who you mentor. I was mentored by some incredible people.
Right.
And I've mentored and I'm mentoring some incredible people, more incredible than me.
Right.
Better than me. And I think that I just want to be remembered for doing those things.
And once again, the complexion of the music. It seems like, I used to joke last year, and I used to say that rap music is becoming No Country for Black Men. Because when you look at, the Grammys, when you look at, last year was the first time in the history of the Grammys that, a black artist didn't win a Grammy. Like, what
that was weak. That's weak.
Why? Why is that going on right now?
I'm not involved that much in the Grammy stuff.
Right.
I'm not involved at all besides going to the Grammys.
Right.
But yeah, that's important that black artists get recognized. Especially in the rap and R&B categories.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That has to happen.
Yeah, and I kind of have a thick skin. I've been around for a while, so I know, I don't want to say the Grammys are bullshit, but you kind of expect what goes around, always comes back around. So, history always repeats itself. But to sit watching the Grammys and my sons who are teenagers say, did this really just happen?
But hasn't rap always had this relationship with the Grammys?
Rap has always had this relationship, but it's the first time. Like, even when rap was being shut out, you still had the Michael Jacksons. You still had the Princes.
But you remember people boycotted the Grammys.
Yes.
You remember rap boycotted the Grammys.
Yes.
But I totally agree with you.
So are you saying then that we need to bring the power back to the people and we need to start boycotting?
Hey, listen, don't get me in trouble.
I'm not trying to get you in trouble.
Don't get me in trouble, but it's important. It's important that
Right.
it's important that it be right.
Right.
It's important that it be right. And I'll do whatever I need to do to help with that.
So you're open. You're open.
Absolutely.
If anybody has a rational
Yes.
solution that doesn't sound ass backwards,
Yes.
you will talk to them and you will try to figure this shit out.
Yes. I'm married.
Yeah.
I have to have that mindset.
In multiple ways, he's married.
Go ahead, Pete.
No, what I definitely want to find out, and I think people would definitely want to know, especially like artists, for having an executive like yourself here. We move past the days, even though it's still around sometimes, of giving a CD, people giving CDs out. Now you just talk on Twitter and people hit you with links. You can't get a conversation with somebody.
No.
What do you guys look for in an artist these days? Because you mentioned it's all out on the internet. So obviously people, in the label are looking around and hearing things and seeing things. And, is it because a lot of people sometimes say like YouTube views or following or
Traction.
No, there's no. I think people always look for that. They always ask me, artists, even people that aren't in the business, ask me like, how do you find these artists? Do they get 1 million YouTube views, or does their song play on the radio a certain number of times? It's all about making great songs and then getting it on your SoundCloud and sending it to people within reason. you know, getting it to the bloggers, and you know, the bloggers are out there looking for great new artists,
Right.
You know, and so are radio DJs, and so are label executives. You know, try to shoot visuals. You know, that's easier for a lot of people to do now than it always was. It doesn't cost a lot to shoot a video. You know, you talk about these videos.
Yeah, the cost of entry right now is really low.
The barrier is really low, which is an incredible thing.
But I would.
It does not. It used to cost $2,000 a day to go into a recording studio.
Right.
Shooting a video, that was even signed artists couldn't get their video shot.
Right.
Now you can do all that in your house. Like take advantage of that.
Are you getting in it? But the flip side is there's too much shit out there right now, Joey.
The good shit always cuts through.
Does it always cut through? There's so much shit out there.
The good
man.
shit mostly always cuts through.
Right.
I mean, get the right team and get the right help. But yeah, it cuts through.
What's going on with Detox, man? What's going on with Detox, Joey?
I couldn't tell you.
Can't they put that shit with the Beats Apple collabo right now?
I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell you.
You have no access to that, man?
No, I couldn't tell you. I couldn't tell. I think Dre's been preoccupied with something else.
Yeah, he's been preoccupied. But is there a glimmer of hope that we might get Detox during my lifetime? I'm getting to be an old man, Joey.
I mean, I think the day Dre feels like it. I mean, I've never spoken to him about it directly, but I think the day he feels like it, he'll do it, and I'm sure it will be incredible.
Okay. Close off, man, with a statement. Like, give my audience a statement. There's a lot going on right now, and you're privy to a lot. You're under a lot of fire, but give my audience.
Am I under a lot of fire?
Well, I mean, you know, publicly, like it's been kind of hot, which is why I would imagine you're here. But give our audience a statement, man. Like, give them a closing statement
about
whatever. Leave your fingerprint on this show, Joey.
I think I said everything in the interview.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
Stay humble, stay working is the only.
Stay humble and stay working.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Stay foolish.
There you go. Well, Joey, man, thank you for coming to the Combat Jack Show, man. You know, I think, you know, our audience is definitely going to appreciate this. They're going to definitely appreciate your history, and I think, you know, I'm not sure if it's going to clear up what's going on, but at least
I didn't come here to clear anything up. I just came here to tell my story.
Right.
Everyone can, you know. Everyone can decide how they feel about whatever. I don't, you know, I'm cool.
No, that's good, man.
No, it was a good story. I mean, listen, it's good. You know, first of all, to see somebody from my neighborhood come up the way he did, and I spoke to you about this combat off air, but even to see particularly a white guy in that neighborhood, who I'm sure had to fence off a lot of people making comments or things, you know, or not understanding what he's understood or his vision. You know, and where you have made it today is definitely an inspiration for a lot of people, man. And,
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that.
Yeah.
How do you like the West Coast?
I love it. You know, I got to get back to New York every few weeks to get this vibe, though.
Yeah.
The West Coast is incredible. It's paradise,
yeah.
But you got to get this New York vibe. You can never lose it.
Yeah, a lot of people are weird out there, though, right? The West Coast?
A lot of people are weird everywhere.
That's true, but it's funny. Whenever I go to the West Coast and I spend more than like a week there, it's like, I
don't know how people get work there.
I got to come back to New York, man. I got to come back to New York. But anyway, once again, Joey, man, thank you. Internet's Joey IE. Listen, you know what it is. You know, it's the Combat Jack Show.
So are you my attorney now officially?
No. Why is every time I talk to someone, Envy tried to hire me as his attorney.
Yeah.
I don't do that shit anymore. I have, you know who, you fuck with James McMillan.
Of course.
You know James McMillan was the person that inspired me to do this because he had so much passion as an attorney, and I didn't.
I heard you say that.
Yeah,
I heard you say that in
I
the
don't have a
interview.
passion for that. I'm dead with that, and you know what I'm saying. And I made great money, and you know I'm sure I could do deals, and I was good, but I don't want to do that shit anymore, man. I want to make money doing this.
You forgot about the little people. It's crazy.
I didn't feel what. You up here popping shit, Joey?
You in Hollywood.
No, I'm not Hollywood, man. We started.
I'm gonna see you moving around L.A.
No. We started at the bottom, and we're still here, Joey. This is a podcast. This is not a radio show. We don't get advertising dollars like that. We don't have commercials.
We need a collaboration Interscope Combat Jack Show.
Maybe. But listen,
You got to stay neutral though.
I'm
You can never be labeled.
Am I doing a
affiliated.
good job?
Absolutely.
There you
What
go.
you're doing is perfect.
I seen him on Twitter with the Rosenblum episode. I seen that you said something that you liked it or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, to hear her tell her story is incredible.
Yeah, she's great, man. So listen, internets. Once again, man, thank you, Joey. You know what it is, man. Dream those dreams, man up and live those dreams. Because a life without dreams is black and white, and the universe flows in Technicolor and surround sound.
Blah.
F your radio, F your podcast,
F your
and
TV.
F your TV show.
Cheer.
Illuminati!
Internets, this episode of the Combat Jack Show is brought to you by the Loudspeakers Network. It's produced by Jonathan Mena. It's engineered by Samir Karam, executive producer Chris Morrow, and we tape exclusively out of the Engine Room Audio Studio in downtown Manhattan. Yeah.